Wake up to Bill Flynn in the morning.
Good morning. We are thrilled to welcome back to our studio microphone this morning, Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen. Tommy, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Bill. I'm doing great. A little road lag. If you listened to last week's show, you know we were heading out to Louisville, Kentucky for the Green Industry Expo.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So we were gone. We got back about 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday night. And then, of course, catching up over the weekend. And, hey, it's just been a whirlwind week.
I'm sure. Now, when you go to this, I know Jonathan was part of a panel to help educate and discuss, things like technologies, lawn innovation, equipment, and what have you. Were you able to go to that seminar? Were you at that one, or were you somewhere else when that was going on? Or?
That went on for a good, I think, 3 or 4 sessions. I did attend one of them.
Mm-hmm. So how did Jonathan do?
Oh, the one I attended, he was great.
Tell me, what are some of the things they covered to the one you remember attending there?
Oh, everything from how to run your business, how to grow your business, what products to use, what experiences you've been having with various products, and this is people from, all over the country, so you're kind of like digging in your mind, trying to imagine what it's like there. What's the environment like? How does it differ from right here in North Carolina? It's all the same. The environment might be different. The plants might be different. The weather quite a bit different in everywhere, but the products are the same. The same attitude, the same kind of professionalism is spread. It's, the same knowledge, how to deal with the environment, how to deal with, landscaping in general, just our environment.
And you talk about essentially some of the same toys you're dealing with. But the reality is it's a different either time or sequence of application that will be maybe molded right to lawns right around here. And you can talk to me a little bit about that, too.
Sure. What might work here may not work up in Washington State, and we'll have a different window of opportunity for various things. I guess across the board, seeding is always best to do in the fall, and you'll find that across.
Oh, now, how does the lawn know? How does the grass detect? It's fall time. I need to start growing roots and less on the upside. Is it a combination of sunlight, sun angle, weather, temperature? What is going on that tells these plants we're in that season? Or is it even more complicated than that?
It's probably just nature. I mean, look at a plant. It grows throughout the season. It produces seed heads. It drops the seed heads in the soil in nature. I mean, we're trying to work with nature. So the more you can try to replicate that in your program, the better, And if you could build soil with microbes like we do, Mother Nature's just going to work a whole lot better for you, whatever you do. We don't really do anything. Mother Nature's in charge. Mm-hmm. You got to understand that to begin with. Take a humble approach to it. Realize you're going to have your failures. Try things. Try everything. We've tried everything. And we look at all the research. And we beg researchers at the universities to do research. And a lot of times they don't want to because it's a lot of times it's driven by big business. Mm-hmm. So they'll get a grant from a company to research a product. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to work on what we want or do what some big,
What it intrigues me, too, about GrowinGreen, again, this is Tommy Cowett with GrowinGreen, and you can find him on the website at growingreen.com. That's GrowinGreen. That's not 2 G's in the middle, just that one big G in the middle. Growingreen.com. Or you can call him at 866-LAWN-HELP, 866-LAWN-HELP. One of the great things that it seems to me with a company the size of GrowinGreen, I mean, I don't know, you got 2,500 or whatever number of clients across the area here, including Forsyth County, certainly. But you guys can react pretty quickly. If you research something and find out, okay, this is going to help get that dream lawn. How long does it take from the time you find out about something, it's been researched, and maybe you've done your own internal experiment with it? How long before it maybe actually shows up in the client's lawn if it's working well?
Well, I think several years ago, it would have been, that's going to take 2 to 3 years, or give up. You don't have a chance, with this lawn. It's not going to work. Or, we've worked with this over time. You start to see that you can get there quicker, and I would say doing all the things that need to be done, from limbing up trees, to you name it, getting the right amount of sunlight, providing the proper amount of water, doing what we do with the seed, the fertilizer, the organic products that we use. We get you a lot quicker, get you a good lawn built a lot quicker now. But it's also got to be done in the right time. Somebody coming in the middle of the summer may be ideal, because we can actually take care of the mess, clean it up.
Now, let's launch forward there a little bit into summertime. If you are starting with nothing, and I have a neighbor right now that is currently building a house, so he's they've just cleared the lot.
Tough one, yeah.
And they're not going to be doing anything, I'm sure, until well after the first of the year, as far as gardening or anything like that. What would you advise? What would be the first thing you do once you've cleared an area, in order to say, we're not going to necessarily have the best lawn this coming spring, but there's some things that you should be doing to prep that site.
Right. That, brand new house, new construction. We had one last year that came to us, brand new construction. He didn't come to us till about, the house was not even finished being built until about November, middle of November. So here we are, working with a blank slate.
And I want a great-looking lawn. The clock is ticking. What do you do?
Well, first you take care of your drainage issues coming off that house. You take care of all those things that have to do with the house, a lot of gutters. Take care of all that.
Now, is that something you can detect and see by looking at the lawn? I mean, how do you know that? Do you bring in other folks that do grading?
Landscaping design, and we're all of us most of us have experience, or we train to look for these kinds of things, because we know what's going to affect that lawn.
For instance, if you end up with a piece of terrain that is collecting water, you got a problem that's going to stay with that homeowner for,
You got to take care of those issues, make sure everything's designed out right, make sure, that you've got all your drainage issues secure, everything's going underground. And
if you hold that "and" right there, we'll talk about finishing up that thought. And also any questions folks might have, regardless of where your lawn is, whether you've been in that house for a decade or more, or maybe you're looking at something new, and we can help you, I think, in all of those cases. The phone number is 896-1980. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour with Growing Green. I'm Bill Flynn. We'll be back with more, and Tommy Cowett in just a moment.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. We are joined this morning with Growing Green, and this is the Love Your Lawn Hour. And I want to welcome to the program Tommy Cowett. We got to meet Tommy last week, right before you guys, the Growing Green contingent, went to Kentucky for a several-day seminar about everything you do on a daily basis. And it was apparently... You learned a lot. You had some fun and all of that, I hope, right?
Oh, we had a blast. We ate at Jeff Ryan's Steakhouse. Man, that's the best restaurant in the world.
Don't tell me you ordered fish.
No. I had a bone-in filet.
Oh, my goodness.
My goodness, that thing, it was about a 12-ounce.
Well, you may have to go back to Kentucky.
Oh,
and did you... Now, one of the things Kentucky is famous for, and you don't have to answer this question, is they make the world's best whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are some tours out there of distilleries that are pretty world class. I know.
We mapped them out. We found an app online on our way up and looked at all the. We could have done a tour.
Oh yeah.
Along the way, we were just pressed for time. But believe me, we wanted to hit them, and you could see them on the side of the, off the highway.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they make it welcoming with signs and turn here and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right before the break, Tommy, you were talking, we'd given the example that you had personally done, you at Growing Green, where you had a new construction site and the lot and the house wasn't finished until sometime well into November.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're dealing now with just a dirt surface.
Exactly.
And you've got to build this up after the traditional seeding and aeration window. So go ahead and finish that story if you will.
Oh, yeah. It was way too late for seed germination at that point. We did put the seed down sometime early December, I believe it was, and it was, cold temperatures. Nothing germinated until the end of March.
Now, when you say that window of time in December, I can hear people that really care about their lawn saying, I don't know. That could be a waste of everybody's time. But what did you decide on that?
We put it in the soil, put the seed in the soil, actually used a mixture of a perennial ryegrass with tall fescue. And the ryegrass did come up as a stabilizer. Mm-hmm. That's a temporary lawn. That's a chia pet. That's not.
Okay, ryegrass is always temporary.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, in this part,
this is like,
is it certainly this part of the country? But is it always that way? Is ryegrass always the first thing out to hold things so the real stuff can come along? Is that primarily the purpose?
It is kind of a temporary surface. You have to reseed ryegrass. Mm-hmm. Even though they call it perennial ryegrass, it doesn't last as long. So it's a constant reseeding. But now up in Maryland and Northern Virginia, Pennsylvania, back about 10, 15 years ago, that was the choice perennial grass for your fairways and your tees on golf courses. And man, I tell you what, there's nothing better than that. But of course, that you've got to reseed it. Then it came down with a terrible disease called gray leaf spot, mm-hmm. which I don't want to bore anybody with this, but when the hurricane season, I guess back with Hugo, if you remember back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
A plant pathologist from NC State had determined that, and even Peter Noden, he's a turf professional up at in University of Maryland, said that this came from a disease in Africa, of rice blast disease. It's the same pathogen that attacks rice, and these spores traveled across the Atlantic Ocean.
Hurricane just sucked them up.
It sucked them up.
Or the tropical storm or whatever disturbance was over there, it stayed with it as it formed a hurricane.
It did.
Wow.
It carried the spores from the rice fields in Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, put it right there in the mid-Atlantic, right up there, and wiped out about 90% of all the ryegrass fairways on the eastern seaboard.
A lot of golf heartbreak right there. And golf course ownership, my gosh, what does it cost to don't even want to think about that.
Well, you wouldn't believe it. At the time, I was a Ciba-Geigy sales rep, and I had fungicides that would attack this stuff, would take care of it. And we were, my bosses were all ka-ching, ka-ching, and Daconil was the biggest thing out there. And, a typical fairway spray for one golf course, say 18-hole golf course, you're looking at about $40,000 for one spray, and it had to be done on a 7 to 14-day interval.
My gosh.
Yeah.
But it was still the best and cheapest alternative to losing everything and then having to reseed, I'm sure.
They lost everything, and everybody started to convert over to bent grass.
Well, now, finishing up that story, too, though, about that brand-new lawn that you did the seeding aeration in, wasn't until December, and people might be thinking, well, what kind of, expectations do you have? Finish that story for me. What happened after the first of the year, after starting with literally dirt?
It was dirt and straw, and a little bit of ryegrass was coming up, but no fescue was really wanting to move, and it was frozen. If you guys remember last year, it was a horrendous winter. Very, very cold. Frozen ground. Nothing moved. This thing actually popped at the end of March, and he had some weed issues. We couldn't apply the pre-emergence for weed control like we would normally do.
Is that because the grass is too tender?
Too young, yeah. So, we had to play with it like a post-application for crabgrass and these things. So we had to adjust our program completely for this lawn. Completely different from anything we would normally do and on a typical lawn that's established. Well, it all came in. We dealt with his weed control issue, post-emergent. And now that lawn is phenomenal, and it's only taken about a year. It's
that's, I think a great example of really custom tailoring for each client, and that's just one example, but that really is what Growing Green does for every client, because I've got shade, I've got sun. Some people have no trees in the yard. Other people have sloping lots that can't keep water on it, what have you. And to be able to take in all of those variables and still bring, the desired result and keep working at it until it gets there is really the goal, isn't it?
That's what we do. It's prescription turf. I mean, it's not much different than going to see your doctor and having them, or a trainer, a personal trainer, or, with humans. I mean, it really mirrors itself. Humans and society really mirror what's going on out there with plants, the landscape, trees.
Tell you what, we're going
population.
To take a quick break and give some examples of how it is we're really using our outdoors around our house these days. I've got an example. We'll keep the phone lines open too for you at AM 980 The Eagle.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. We are happy to spend a few minutes with Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen. Now, I know Jonathan Rigsby, we call him the Turf Commander. Do you have a title along that line, Tommy? Are you second in command, Turf Commander? Are you, what do you call yourself?
Tommy. That's it. I'm just Tommy with GrowinGreen.
Well, that works. It works real well. Now, we were talking about this GIE show. And what does GIE stand for?
Green Industry Expo.
Okay, and this was going on in Kentucky last week. In fact, when you all were here for the show last week, you literally got in the car and were hit the road right after the program to head to Kentucky.
Absolutely.
So
that's what we did.
One of the things that folks may not know is you guys have a very interactive website. And one of the things you did was you actually grabbed video of this conference, right?
Absolutely. We try to videotape as much of the interesting things that we come across on a daily basis. I do that a lot. I'll do a lot of videos. And I think GrowinGreen has over 100 videos on topics that just fall right in our lap, whether it be bagworms on trees or brown patch or pythium disease in a lawn.
See, all of these things that you're mentioning, I'm sure are probably common to this area, but we may not know them by that name because they haven't showed up in our yard yet.
Yeah, you've got to kind of find out the hard way a lot of times, and the mistake a lot of people make is overplanting sometimes. They just crowd everything out. Way too much.
Are you talking about the grass and bushes and trees?
We cover
everything?
it all, know. I mean, the two have to coexist. If you start planting a Leyland hedge and have this big, beautiful Leyland hedge and then decide to drop a red maple somewhere in the lawn, within 10 years, that red maple's going to crowd out that and shade out that Leyland hedge. All of a sudden, half of it's dead and needs to be replaced. And it was because you planted this tree there. So this is what happens, on a daily basis. We see these things.
That long-term vision to be able to say, okay, we know where this is going to go in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And to be intelligent about not only what you do, what you don't do, but if you are going to add that additional tree or that shrub line or do something with that natural area, to do it in a way that everything's going to be happy.
Yes, you can crowd things out, and that's where you run into problems. I was on a lawn yesterday, and I'm starting to see some new, really big problems. I hope we can head them off, but it's probably just too late. And this is for arborvitae and Cryptomeria cypress, which we thought were the replacements for the Leyland cypress for hedges. I don't know what it is with humans and society where we want to screen out our neighbors. It's so important to get that screen because I don't want to look at that, or not just their neighbors, but a shed or a house I can understand a highway or, a building or something like that. And you want to screen it out. So you were just talking about, I saw the pictures of your beautiful backyard and you guys are just chilling out. Beautiful, the area. You want your space You want that seclusion, that
You do, and you
serenity.
want that sense of privacy, and I think that really is what's driving that Leyland Cypress line. But what is the problem you're seeing with the replacement for that?
Well, they've overcrowded. Everybody wants it instant, so they plant them too close together.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get up, now you've got a crowded environment, and you're going to open yourself up for pathogens. Anytime you have high populations and unsanitary conditions, you could get a disease like Ebola or something.
Yeah.
Well,
So you made that point earlier about how there's a synthesis, if you will, between human populations and plant populations. If you really crowd these plants, the likelihood of them flourishing diminishes.
It's epidemiology, man. I'm telling you. I mean, you're looking at these diseases that crop up. It happens in nature, with animals, plants. Look at a lawn. That's a population. They call it a sward. Heavy population. You get out of balance, you get a little too thick, too dense, it's going to thin itself out. And disease is usually the way it does it.
And so what is the problem you're seeing right now, and what is it you're seeing, and what would be GrowinGreen's suggestion on how to deal with what you're seeing?
We have the tools. Usually, these fungicides and insecticides that we use are very broad spectrum. But you've got to catch it in time. You've got to get this disease before it takes over, it starts to do some damage. And like I said, I was on a lawn yesterday, overplanted. I mean, the landscape was overplanted.
And overplanted, give me an idea of what you saw that was indicating that. I mean,
Just
the density of
the
bushes
plants,
and
the
all
trees and shrubs, arborvitaes on top of each other, very little air movement.
I'll say the average person, you might drive by and say, boy, that's a lush-looking place. But you look at it and you see competition for a limited environment for these plants, and they're all going to – it's kind of like professional wrestling for plants. One of them's going to have to win.
Yep, and you see it happen, and you see the insects and disease spread from one to the other and start to cause a problem. And then
so even the healthy one then gets
they started to die.
I
And I'm
see,
looking at him, and he's thinking, what is this? And it's like, oh, no. I knew it. I've seen it about 3 weeks ago on Cryptomeria, and it's a new fungus that's starting to attack these plants.
Now, is this geographically especially right around here, or is this across the country?
This is right around here.
Okay, and so which county, by the way, is this Forsyth County, Alamance County, all the above?
The first sign of this disease I saw, it's a dieback disease. The Cryptomeria was in High Point. It was about 3 weeks ago. The one I came across yesterday was on arborvitae, same fungus in Greensboro. And I can only imagine, I'm sure, it's going to start to crop up. The prevailing wind goes west, so it's only a matter of time before it hits Winston-Salem.
So is there a way to detect this in your plants before they start showing signs of being unhealthy? I mean, is the best thing, can you eyeball this and know this is coming? Or do you have to look for that defoliation or whatever?
Sometimes it's just too late, when you see a problem that's become a major problem, and these plants actually need to be taken out now.
And that's to preserve the health of the, quarantining the plant, taking it out.
Stop it from spreading anymore.
I see.
Go ahead.
I tell you, we're going to take a quick break and continue with our final segment. We have Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen, and fascinating insights and information. If you have a question about your lawn, you can call him at 866-LAWN-HELP. That's 866-LAWN-HELP. And you can also visit the website, growinggreen.com, growinggreen.com, with all kinds of valuable and important information, especially for you right now.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980 The Eagle.
When you bring GrowinGreen into your, I was going to say lawn, but really to your life, because it's a coordinated effort to get the best results and to really, there's some things a homeowner needs to do. Once you've come and made your visit, once you put down either the seed or the aeration or the pre-emergence or any of the things that you do, the best results come when you have a real relationship with that homeowner that knows, okay, I got to water this more now, or whatever the prescription is. So talk to me a little bit about that relationship and that dependency back and forth with GrowinGreen and the client.
It goes into the love your lawn, and that's our goal. And that's one of the mission statements. We want, but it takes, both of us. You're home all the time. We want, when you pull up, to be so proud of your lawn and your trees and your shrubs that, you can't wait to get home, to your lawn. And, it's going to take some effort on your part, too. We can't, do it all. I mean, we're not.
What about, lawns that have even some established trees? Maybe a good-sized sapling you put in a few years ago is really grown into a pretty nice little tree. As far as keeping that healthy and making sure that plant has what it needs, is GrowinGreen, able to monitor those kinds of things too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have a tree and shrub knowledge program. We understand, how these trees fit into the landscape, what it might cause, what kind of problems might be caused down the road by planting the wrong plant, wrong place. I mean, there is a program the Extension Service promotes called Right Plant, Right Place, or Right Place, Right Plant. And that's really, really important.
Because I'm sure a lot of times homeowners will say aesthetically, I need a big tree right here, just for road appeal. But it may not be the best placement for that tree in terms of its own health and how it reacts with the rest of that micro environment it's in. The shade it's going to deliver for an area of the lawn you may really love. And I just over the weekend was a great example. The weather was so perfect, and I showed you a picture of how I love my lawn. Now I don't love my lawn by getting out there and doing everything. I love my lawn by enjoying it and looking at it.
Hanging
and
out.
I had some friends over Saturday, and we were on the patio, and just. Not that I say, hey, everybody, look at my lawn, but it's part of that thing that makes you want to be outside.
Absolutely.
And take advantage of the gorgeous weather we do have, especially this time of year. And not to be distracted by the problems that are avoidable, I don't want to sit out there on the patio and say, gosh, I got this weed problem. That becomes a whole discussion,
Sure. We try to head those things off preventatively. Prevent these problems from happening. That's part of the program. And it's really, if you're on the program, that's what it does. It prevents these issues from coming. Now, we can cure problems and come in and fix, various problems. Or like we were talking about before, establish a new landscape entirely, and do it right. Design it so that things don't become a problem down the road. And that's all part of good, right place, right plant. Doing the right agronomic program for building roots and building soil.
Well, right now, I always like to focus on this exact window. We're coming to the end of the time when you can seed and aerate. Is there still a window to do that even right now, this late in October?
Sure. It's slower. Back from about the beginning of September through the end of October, you're going to have good germination. We're still in that window. You're still going to get, everything's still going to come up. Just takes a little bit longer.
So the longer you wait, the longer it takes to germinate.
Yeah, like really I said, we seeded that one lawn in December. It didn't come up till the end of March, but some of it, we had it stabilized with straw and that type of thing.
Just as a question, and this is something I'm facing too. Recently seeded and aerated the lawn, and I also got trees, and that means I got leaves, and I want to get the leaves up, but I don't want to disturb the new growth or disturb that seed that's about ready to do what it's going to do. So deep raking is out. Blowing is, well, I'm going to maybe get rid of some straw.
Or top with your mower.
Yeah.
I mean, just mow it with a mulching and mulch those leaves. And you're putting the leaf, litter back into
Yeah, you're
the soil.
a big fan of keeping either that way or starting your own home compost pile of clippings and leaves, because
leaves are gold. I've got some colleagues who are also compost fanatics that we'll drive around and we see leaf bags on the side of the road. We'll throw them in the back of the pickup truck, take them home.
And, how long does it take for that that leaf to break down to be a really good mineral and source for your lawn, a good feed.
Say you collect your leaves now after they've fallen, or this winter, and put them in your compost bin and get the right amount of green to add. That's brown. Compost is two things. You want brown and leaves. Leaves are your brown, and 80% brown, 20% green. Green are like your kitchen scraps, your lettuce, whatever, onions, whatever you're throwing away. Not meat, but, good green. Lawn clippings are green, and they contain nitrogen. That nitrogen source. I use bunny manure. We have a bunny rabbit named Doug, and he's got his name.
He's helping in his own way.
He's my green guy, and I'll mix his bunny poop, which is amazing. This was really kind of weird. I bought the bunny for my daughter about 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden we built it a condo. He's got this awesome condo, and
he's living better than Dad is probably in some places.
Yeah. The poop started coming, and I'm looking at it going, man, I know there's a value to this, but I was throwing it away. And then I got online and I found out about bunny manure being one of the best. You can actually apply bunny manure directly to your garden, and it's a great fertilizer.
I had no idea.
But I'm using it with my leaves, and I get so much bunny manure from Doug that, man, I'm able to make 4 yards of compost a year. So I keep building new raised beds for leafy greens, and then, of course, in the summertime growing tomatoes and eggplant.
Now, you mentioned a bin to do this. I mean, is that the best way and the only way to get effective compost is to enclose it, or can you do it open? Yeah.
Just a pile in the yard, put all your leaves back there and throw some green in it. And
so let's say you're doing this as a Growing Green client. I can say, hey, Tommy, here's what I got in my compost. Here's what I'm doing.
Oh, we'll consult with you. Absolutely.
You can then say, okay, we may change the mix that we put on your lawn based on what you're already doing, that kind of thing.
You can actually top dress your lawn with that compost. It's the greatest thing you can do is add organic matter, And we're looking at, that was one of the things we were doing at GIE, was looking at some material spreading, equipment. Top dressing equipment like that. We're already doing top dressing on athletic fields, and we've done a few lawns. But that's something that we could do.
I don't think a lot of people possibly know that Growing Green does a fair amount of contract work with significant. Are these high school fields? Are they city parks, county recreation areas?
All the above. Yeah, we do. We had a great success story in Stokesdale this year where they had a field that was condemned by the North Carolina Youth Soccer Association due to this terrible, terrible sedge that was growing on the field. And it was a trip hazard for referees. And they didn't want to put their refs on those fields. And they have a big tournament coming up next month with about 100 teams coming. This is a relatively new facility, but it had this problem. Not only that, it was really thin, and the crown of the field, where it's like where water can run off of the field, is a crown. It's just higher in the middle than on the sides. You see that in a field. That was inverted. It was holding water in the middle. So you actually had
almost like a swimming pool effect.
Yeah, we were building it up with sand in the middle. And, man, those fields, go out to Stokesdale Athletic Park right now off of 158. Take a look at that. I mean, it's night and day. It's beautiful.
And no longer a tripping hazard?
No longer a tripping hazard.
And what was it that was growing it?
A sedge. This terrible, terrible sedge, which is a weed, a terrible weed.
And does it actually have send out lines across what is causing the trip?
Oh, it's like a clump.
Oh, okay.
It stands up about 3 inches above the turf. So, you're running along and boom, you're gone.
I tell you, that's something
ACL
you don't want.
Hazard there. Nobody wants to,
And again, it's in Stokes County, Stokesdale?
This is Stokesdale, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, just right.
And you can literally see the work.
Oh, yeah.
Of Growing Green. Tommy, I wish we had more time. Fascinating discussion. Welcome back from the show in Kentucky, and I'm sure that will continue to pay dividends in the coming months and even years for Growing Green and Growing Green clients. Let me encourage you to go to the website at growingreen.com, growingreen.com, and 866 Lawn Help is the number. 866 Lawn Help.